Welcome to Mortification of Spin, Bully Pulpit, a casual conversation about things that count, with Carl Trueman, Todd Pruitt, and Aimee Byrd. Mortification of Spin is a weekly podcast from the Alliance of Confessing Evangelicals. This week, Todd and Aimee interview famous author, blogger, pastor, professor, and all-around man's man, Dr. Carl Trueman. His recent book on Martin Luther gives the crew another excuse to talk about the famous reformer. Don't forget to stick around to hear how you can download a free message by Carl Trueman, We Are Beggars, Luther's famous last words.
Well, thank you for joining us today on Mortification of Spin, Bully Pulpit. And unfortunately, the much-beloved Carl Trueman is on tour right now, or as you might know him, RevMaster T, is on tour right now through Australia. Lecrae is opening for him in his current tour and doing what he does best, his art, his hip-hop, his rap. You can feel it. Carl's got the rhythm. He does this so masterfully, as you all will hopefully hear a little bit later in the program. But we do have something very special. We have a guest author with us who has written a new book called Luther on the Christian Life. It's a wonderful series from Crossway. Incidentally, my contribution to that series will be coming out soon. It's called Osteen on the Christian Life. Looking forward to that. Aimee, I believe, is penning one called Joyce Meyer on the Christian Life that will come out soon, and just featuring some of the great thinkers in Christian history. But our author interview today is something we've been looking forward to. It's a book we've been looking forward to. Learn some more things about Martin Luther, and particularly in his writings about the Christian life. And the author is Carl Trueman. He's with us here. And Carl, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. It's great to be on the program. I'm slightly disappointed that the witty, intelligent, and good-looking one isn't available today, but I'm very happy to be interviewed by you two also rants.
Well, we're just glad to share a platform with you. And that's what matters to us.
We really needed to replace him with another token British guy, so we were glad to find you.
Right.
And that you have this new book out that we can talk about, Luther on the Christian Life. Yeah. And I'm really liking this new series that well, I guess it's not new anymore, that Crossway's put out with these different theologians on the Christian life, because I think that it's really good for lay people. There's so many good biographies on different theologians, but particularly Luther's, I think, really serves lay people well to just learn how their theology affects their thoughts on regular people living the Christian life.
And that's one of the things I enjoy about this series, is that it's really intentionally written on a popular level. It's written for the church, not for the academy. And I really appreciate this, because they're pastoral in many ways. The volumes I've read have all been really helpful. And as much as I would like to really be cruel to Carl Trueman right now, I must say I'm actually really looking forward to this, and I was glad that he contributed a volume. Now, we must say up front that Aimee and I have not received our complimentary copies of the book yet. I'm waiting for I want Michael Horton actually to sign my copy of Luther on the Christian Life. So we'll see if we can make that happen.
Well, it's interesting you bring Michael Horton up, because in an interview we did with him. Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. Well, in an interview that we did with him, Carl asked Michael Horton in our little game show question that we did who he preferred, Luther or Calvin. He had to pick one, and Horton picked Calvin. Mm-hmm. And Carl disagreed, and he picked Luther. And he said because Luther's more fun. Yeah. So
Luther had a more foul mouth, which makes him more fun. And I think that's why Carl identifies with him so well.
Well, Luther's sense of humor really did serve his theology. In your book, you talk a lot about that, Carl, right?
Yeah, I thought you were actually not going to bother interviewing me for a minute there.
Well, actually, Carl, what we'd like you to do is any questions we ask you, we'd like you to answer it with a rap. Oh, if you could work that out, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Okay.
No, Luther had a great sense of humor, and I think it actually has theological significance. Luther understood there was a certain absurdity to the nature of life as a finite human being in a fallen world, standing before the holy and infinite God. We have so many pretensions, we have so many ambitions, we have so many high opinions of ourselves that actually look ridiculous when set in the context of eternity, in the context of God himself. The Lord looks down upon us and laughs at our pretensions. And that is a theme that flavors much of Luther's theology.
And so thus his ease at referencing bodily functions, for instance.
Yeah, well, of course, Luther was a peasant and was very proud of his peasant roots. And part of being a peasant is having an earthy sense of humor, an earthy vocabulary. Yeah. He spoke the language of the common people to the common people. So that's another aspect of Luther's overall approach to communicating Christian truth in his day.
Yeah. Well, one question I thought about actually is, so Carl, you've already written a lot about Luther. You've got a book out there that costs like $380 on Luther. It's really thick, and I've never gotten a copy because I can't afford it. But I did want to say this, since you've written some scholarly material, quite a bit of scholarly material on Luther, as you approach this book, did you find anything new? Was there anything that surprised you as you were writing this one?
Yes, I think one of the things that I became convinced of in writing this book was that the later Luther, from sort of 1527 onwards, is very, very important for understanding Luther's theology. Most evangelicals focus on the Luther of between, say, 1517, when he posts the 95 Theses against indulgences, up to 1525, when he writes his response to Erasmus on the bondage of the will. But actually, the consolidation of the Lutheran Reformation takes place from the late 1520s onwards. That's when Luther is wrestling with problems that are either unresolved or have even been generated by some of his early reforming impulses and ideas. So I became convinced that, particularly on something like the issue of good works and ethics, the later Luther is very, very significant for understanding his theology and indeed Protestant theology that stems from Luther.
What would be the primary contributing factor or factors to making the later Luther different from the earlier Luther?
Well, Luther in his early career has a supreme confidence that the world is going to come to an end. He's really a late medieval man. He has that eschatological expectation that the world is coming to an end, that the Reformation is the great revival at the end of history. So in 1522, for example, he's very confident that if you just preach the word, everything will fall into place. By the time you get to the late 1520s, it's becoming obvious that the Reformation is suffering setbacks, that there is a need for organization over the long haul. Men need to be trained for ministry. Schools need to be established. There needs to be a lot of thinking about how the teaching on justification by grace through faith works itself out in the day-to-day lives of ordinary parishioners. So Luther engages in a lot more what we might call practical thinking, both ecclesiastically and ethically, after 1527.
Okay.
One thing
very pertinent, I think, for the way that Luther has been appropriated by some of the characters out there today. Right. You know, we've mentioned, I think, right, Tully and Tchividjian on this program before. You know, these are people who grab hold of sound bites of the early Luther, right, and really distort his teaching because they are pretty ignorant of Luther's later developments, right, and produce very naive and lopsided historical and theological portraits of the man that I think are frankly mischievous in the way that's being worked out practically in some churches today.
Right. That Luther had no use for the law, for example.
That kind of thing.
Or no doctrine at all of sanctification.
Yeah, and so often when certain people talk about, you need to preach the law and the gospel, all they really do is preach the gospel. Right. And Luther has some pretty harsh things to say about that from 1527 onwards, that if you just preach grace, if you just preach the gospel, guess what? To quote Luther, the people will live like pigs. And Luther found that completely unacceptable and unchristian.
Well, one area that you kind of I think, push back at is how we tend to look at Luther through contemporary evangelical eyes. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about there, too. And in some ways, I was doing that when I was reading it. I was thinking about how well Luther answers the question that I think a lot of us have now, even though we look at him wrong in this way sometimes. A lot of times we struggle with, well, should we be revolutionary Christians? And a lot of times we look at Luther that way. Or should we be regular, and this big word ordinary that we like to use a lot now? But I think Luther answers that in a lot of ways, because he's revolutionary, but it's through this obedience to Scripture. I mean, he's not trying to be revolutionary.
Yeah, and his theology is revolutionary in the sense that it turns on its head a lot of medieval thinking, particularly in the relationship of faith and works. But he's also a very pastorally sensitive and, in a sense, conservative reformer. So, for example, he's already making his appeal for a vernacular liturgy in 1520 in Wittenberg. But it's actually 1525 before he implements a full vernacular liturgy. One, he wants to get the words right. Two, interesting enough, he wants to get the music right. He wants German music to accompany German words. And three, he doesn't want to disturb people. He's aware that people don't like change. And although there is a need to bring in this very dramatic change, introducing vernacular liturgy, he does it slowly and gently so that he brings people on, not exactly at their own pace. He's pushing them, but he doesn't just go straight in and say, okay, tomorrow we're getting rid of the Latin and we're having a full German liturgy. He's very sensitive to people in the pew. I think there's a great lesson there for guys going into the ministry. I've heard it said, don't change anything unless the thing is heretical. Change nothing for 5 years when you go into a church. Build personal capital. Get to know the people. Luther probably never heard anyone say that, but it's interesting that that's precisely the model he follows with great success. I think Luther as a pastor is a man of great pastoral care and sensitivity. He's ruthless in the way he deals with his clever opponents who need to be dealt with ruthlessly. He is kind and gentle and sensitive with the congregants that the Lord has placed under his care.
That's a great lesson for pastors. That's a great lesson. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I'm looking forward to reading the book. As much as it pains me to say, I actually have full confidence that this is going to be a book well worth reading. I actually, again, man, why is this so hard for me to say this about you, Carl? I really like
It's an excellent book. Give them credit where credit's due.
Hold it now.
Come on.
Now, see, and this is kind of, I'm going to let our listeners into a little bit of inside baseball here. I think you can tell that we've got three hosts here. Carl Trueman, or RevMaster T. We have Aimee Byrd, the housewife theologian, and then we have just lowly Todd. Now, it's clear that Aimee has read a copy of this book. I haven't seen a copy yet. Carl, would you like to explain yourself?
Yes, I would. I thought I needed to get some commendations, and I knew that Amy's name on the cover would sell some books, and I knew that your name on the cover would put people off. So
we can find it Todd Pruitt, type aficionado.
I think people who are interesting and attractive to puff my books. Todd, if you wish to change the habits of a lifetime, call me when my next book comes out. We'll see what we can do.
And see, Carl, it's that attitude, which is why I'm not having you endorse my book, Osteen on the Christian Life. So you had your chance, pal. You had your chance.
That has got to be a very short book, though. Hey, it's you writing it. We're talking about Joel Osteen on the Christian Life.
Well, anyway, with all of that said, and despite the fact that I'm struggling with bitterness, I am looking forward to receiving my copy right along with the rest of the nobodies out there, and reading my just general released copy. But I will look forward. I will look forward to the kids edition and the women's devotional edition of Luther on the Christian Life as well, and the True Tone cover copy.
I will always remember the little people like you help me.
Appreciate that. We help put you up there.
I've never heard Todd be called a little person before, but
yeah. So once the book is released to the general public, which I am apparently just a member of, we will look forward to reading it. It's a terrific series. I am quite sure this will be a terrific addition to that series. And until then, listen, I would encourage you to discover the great music stylings of Carl Trueman as well. He's a tremendous hip-hop artist. As I said, Lecrae is currently opening for him right now in his Australian tour. And what I like about Carl's hip-hop is it's got an edge to it. He's not afraid to use profanity. And so we look forward to that. For my friends Carl and Aimee, we are signing off from Mortification of Spin. Look forward to talking to you all next time.
I'm a legend among 5-year-old rappers in Australia.
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The Trinity. Yeah. The Trinity. Yeah. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The Trinity. The Trinity. The Trinity. Yeah. Every time I think of the three, my mind is drawn to the one. And every time I think of the one, my mind is drawn to the three.
Thanks for listening to Mortification of Spin, Bully Pulpit, a podcast of the Alliance of Confessing Evangelicals. The Alliance is a coalition of pastors, scholars, and churchmen who hold the historical creeds and confessions of the Reformed faith and who proclaim biblical doctrine in order to foster a Reformed awakening in today's church. Visit our website, mortificationofspin.org, to find a free download of We Are Beggars, Luther's famous last words, by Carl Trueman. While you're there, read more of the host's thoughts posted on the blog. If you want more Mortification of Spin, you can find our entire archive on the podcast tab of our site, going all the way back to episode 1. Come back next week and join Carl, Todd, and Aimee as they inaugurate only the second honorary man.
I want to take your minds back to an event of roughly 12 months ago when regular listeners will remember that we conferred a singular great honor upon Mrs. Aimee Byrd when she joined the show, and we actually elected her as an honorary guy. Well, only for the second time in recorded history are we going to do that today.
It's a moment that will live in infamy. You won't want to miss it. We'll see you then.
That is on a children's gospel album in Australia.
Come on now.
I kid you not.
What?
When the guy said it to me, I nearly dropped off. I never dropped off this mortal sphere.
We've got to have that.
We've not had this yet.
I only allowed them to do it if they gave me a pseudonym. So I'm actually listed as RevMaster T. But if you look at the liner notes, RevMaster T appears courtesy of Carl Trueman Enterprises.
That is hilarious.
I love it.
Oh,
okay.
Dear.